I'm just trying to think ahead of different things that I did before.
No, I think it's good.
Yeah, all right. Choice lanes are coming to Nashville. As for where exactly in Nashville, well, that's the question. You may have heard us talk about choice lanes, a few times here or there. These are optional toll lanes that the state is setting up here in Tennessee. So TDOT apparently has a few options for where these things could be. Two of those options in Nashville, one would be I-65 from downtown headed to Spring Hill, and then another from I-24 heading from downtown to Murfreesboro. I've probably driven down these roads 100 times and just can't visualize if that's a problem, interstate or something like that. But clearly someone has already done the research. Now, I did say optional, right? This is an optional toll lane. And so you don't have to take it, but the idea is that if you pay a little extra money, you could have a much easier and more convenient commute. The thing about it is I can already hear someone out there asking, is Nashville traffic all that bad? Someone's asking this. I'm not suggesting someone in Nashville. I'm just saying someone out there is asking, wait, Nashville traffic is that bad? Yes, actually, yes. You can see the growth in this city just by looking at the traffic. The trouble, of course, is that we would essentially be handing over the keys to our interstates to private contractors, right? These folks would be the ones to establish these toll lanes, and the money from all of that would help to benefit different construction projects around Nashville or, Tennessee. We don't know, however, how much we would be paying for these toll lanes, access to these toll lanes.
If you think about it, for this to work, people have to ride on these choice lanes, and that's what pays for them. And so everybody is on the same page and incentivized to price these in a way that produces the maximum dollars.
In some places, around the country, a couple bucks here or there. For some folks, that could still be an issue. Here, people are already speculating that we're talking $4, $5, $6 or so just to make it one way.
Shouldn't have to pay to get around anywhere. I mean, these roads are free.
They seem very convenient when you're traveling from one end of the city to another. Like Houston, for example, it's an hour to get from one end of the city to the other because it's so massive. Nashville, not nearly as big. The size of the city, at the rate that it's growing right now, something's got to give. Lawmakers, the governor seems to think this is one option. Of course we need more public transportation. We need more efficient public transportation. The thing I keep hearing over and over, a light rail system. These things have been done in other places. It's not like it's foreign. You look in some of these other cities that are very similar to Nashville, like for example, Charlotte, they have a light rail system. People hardly use it, but it's still there. I keep going back to Minnesota because that's where I grew up. I reference that all the time. Incredible light rail system. Take you from the suburbs to the Mall of America, to the Twin Stadium, to the Viking Stadium, and the airport. In one shot. You pay $3 to go from, the suburbs 45 minutes away to get to all those places. It's convenient, but I love Nashville, so I'm here. Anyway, for all those people who are concerned about, trying to change their commute around or anything like that, don't worry. They don't anticipate coming up with actual construction plans until at least 2025. Yeah, with a likely release date of 2027. But is it that? I'm gonna ask the question that I've been asking for, almost 4 years now. Is it that complicated to come up with a light rail system? So I'm wondering, for the folks out there, even if you're like a council member or someone like that, the question is for you. What would it take to make this happen? Thousands of Tennessee families are finding out that they no longer have access to SNAP benefits just before the holiday season. So Anita Wadwani is a reporter for the Tennessee Lookout, and she discovered that state officials are not only blaming their computer system right now, but they're also blaming the fact that they're extremely short-staffed. Turns out the state was transitioning from their older system that handled SNAP benefits, which you might refer to as food stamps. They were transitioning from the older system to a newer system, but somehow along the way, a lot of folks just fell through the cracks. And because of that, we're talking a backlog that's lasting months, okay? I think at one point they said that back in July, when they first started rolling this new system out, 73,000 people lost access to their benefits. One woman shared her story with Anita and, talked about how she showed up to the grocery store back in September to pay for, groceries for her and her 3 children. And when she went to cash out, her SNAP benefits card came back declined. And so she was trying to figure out what was going on because she knew that nothing had changed in terms of her circumstances. But the card came back declined anyway. So she starts making calls, left and right to the Department of Human Services and wasn't getting anywhere. She was spending at least 4 hours at a time on the phone just trying to get someone on the other end of the line. And, she even went to the extent of going into the offices, in person. Come to find out, kiosks weren't working. The line alone was taking hours long. And the answers that she would get from these people, it was next to nothing. They pretty much told her that they're doing the best that they can at the moment. This is a single mother taking care of 3 children. She has to figure out groceries, she has to figure out all of these different things. And just to qualify for some of these services, you have to fall beneath a certain income level. And so you think about that. She had to wait 3 months before her benefits kick back in. That's a long 3 months, people. It's the worst timing when you're talking about just sitting there waiting for your benefits to kick in. And the holidays are around the corner. Thanksgiving, Christmas, all of these different holidays. Kids are out of school. That guaranteed 2 meals that they might get at school, it's not there anymore. Now they're at home. You don't know what to do. These things add up. There are thousands of people, just from reading this, there are thousands of people who fell into that same type of situation. Like I said, part of the issue is that they were changing systems, right? I guess this was the biggest overhaul in technology for the Department of Human Services since 1992. That's quite some time, folks. I was not in this country yet. Let's put it that way. I talked about this being part of the issue, right? The other part, of course, is we're talking about a department that is wildly understaffed. It got me thinking about how we've heard something like this before. I spent how long, back in 2020, covering stories regarding, the unemployment system. I think at one point it was 90,000 pending claims through the Tennessee unemployment system. The state's comptroller's office wrote that between March 2021 and March 2023, the state was well below the national standard for paying people their first round of unemployment within the first 14 or 35 days. What it showed is that at one point before the pandemic, we ranked 27th in the country for making timely unemployment payments. Right now, we're sitting at about 47. So we are ranked 47th in the country for making those payments on time. And, that just echoed a lot of what we heard early in the pandemic. We heard people saying, I had to wait 17 weeks, Levi, or I'm waiting on 28 weeks just to get one unemployment payment. So the comptroller's office runs this audit and finds out that not only are we behind in making the payments on time, we're also behind on hiring people, making sure that we are fully staffed for these positions to meet the demand. So what they found out is that in the millions of calls that people made to the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development, only about 9% of those calls were actually picked up by a live agent. 9%. There were people who were calling daily, probably 10, 15 times a day, trying to get someone on the line. And what this audit found is that most of the calls people made, they ended up just quitting and hanging up the phone because it was taking too long. I remember back when I was helping people through some of their pandemic unemployment issues, and people would call right in front of me, right? They would call and we'd sit there, listen for the prompts, and then hang up. Like the other line hung up. Not us, the other line. I wanted to make sure that I said that because, when you read some of these stats, it doesn't really reflect, personal experiences as much. I don't even think I remember seeing someone talking to an agent. The bottom line is, many of these places were overwhelmed. Many of these departments were overwhelmed. I think the Tennessee Department of Labor said that they got about 9 to 10 years worth of claims in the first couple of years of the pandemic. So it's unprecedented times.
Do you know how you stop them from calling 15 to 20 times a day?
You answer the phone. There it is. Both departments have now said that they are working actively to try and get those jobs filled as soon as possible, especially around the holidays. People are relying on this money, and staffing is getting in the way, and the systems that were meant to make it more convenient are getting in the way. A grieving mother in Nashville says that we need better safety measures here in the city after her son was killed in a hit-and-run crash. Dustin Brumley was jogging along Nolensville Pike when he was hit by a car that ended up speeding away. This was just early December.
I'm missing him so much now. It's just really hard.
Brumley's mom says that while she's grieving this loss, she knows that more can be done along Nolensville Pike to make it safer for pedestrians.
It's just hard. It's hard. And I would love to see something really good come from this. And like I said, if that means saving one person's life, I'll take that.
Because she says that Nolensville Pike is probably one of the most notorious streets out there in Nashville for pedestrians being hit by cars. Our Kelsey Gibbs, looked through some of the stats. Here's what TDOT told her, is that there have been 816 crashes along that corridor since 2014, and 68 involve pedestrians or people, riding their bikes. 40% involve people in a wheelchair. I'll let that one sink in for a second. And of all the pedestrian crashes, 59 of them were either deadly or involved serious injury. It sounds like the perfect storm, right? Just like what you described. You have a lot of people who are walking back and forth without cars, lower income area, to some degree. And you have people who are a little anxious because the lights are taking longer than they expected, or there's just a lot of lights. The thing about all this is that Nolensville Pike is expected to see major changes in the coming years here, because they actually are part of a $13 million federal grant money project that is expected to make some of these changes here, okay? I'm gonna name them off because there's quite a bit of them and I don't wanna get it wrong. But this would be from McCall Street over to Haywood Lane, okay, if you're familiar with that area. Some of the changes would include building safe sidewalk connections, constructing additional street lighting and pedestrian scale lighting to improve visibility. So it's about the size of pedestrians or taller so that people can see, who's at these intersections. Adding high visibility crosswalks, adjusting signal timings, which I didn't know that they could use the money for something like that. That seems pretty convenient. And enhancing bus stop designs so that they're easily identifiable. So you can see the bus stop, that that this area is gonna be a high traffic area for pedestrians, and that should keep people on alert. Of course, all of this stuff still requires people to be very vigilant. It gets frustrating hearing about just how many pedestrian deaths we have all the time. I think Kelsey at this point has reported on so many of them because we see them happening all the time, and the message is the same. Pay attention on the roads. In this case, we have someone who is a person of interest. The police are looking for a specific person, and they're hoping that he turns himself in. Brumley's mom is hoping that this person turns himself in.
And I know he must be scared, but we just want justice.
But she also understands that there is a bigger issue out there with people not really valuing life enough to be able to stop and help someone that they've just hit. The money's gonna be there to try and make some improvements or whatever, but if we're not doing our part, the money is meaningless. It's not too late to volunteer your time to help out tornado victims here in Middle Tennessee. Hands on Nashville could use all the help they can get. Right now, what they're doing is they are helping to remove debris and, help to canvass homes, damaged homes with some of these property owners, just to see what else they can salvage. But all of that takes effort. All of that takes people. They need the bodies to do this. So they've actually made it very convenient for you to find out how you can volunteer your time and where you can go. Over at Hands On Nashville, they have two options, one for helping out in Nashville and one for helping out in Clarksville. Obviously, we saw all of the damage that happened with this string of tornadoes that went through Middle Tennessee. People are gonna need help now, and they're gonna need help in the future. It's gonna be a lot of work to get people back on their feet. They especially need bilingual volunteers. And so if you speak both English and Spanish, they need you yesterday, okay? Some of these communities that were hard hit from these tornadoes, they involve a lot of people who are not native English speakers, and so they still need help. They may just not be able to articulate that or communicate that. What these groups are hoping is that they can get as many volunteers as possible, right? But also as many bilingual volunteers to the table so that we can help out as many people as possible. Yeah, see, and I didn't know about some of the other things because I thought, like, for example, the Red Cross, which I was gonna mention. The Red Cross is also doing a lot of work to get meals into the hands of some of these survivors and to connect them with some of these resources, right? Whether that's finding shelter or, tracking down important documents. So if you've got the time, maybe you can make time for this. We've got the Red Cross here working to help people. We've got Hands On Nashville. They could use your help, but they can also use your donations. And so if you can't actually give some time, perhaps you can give some money. I know that it's gonna make a difference for some of these families who right now are just trying to take it one day at a time. Yeah. Students over at Tennessee Tech University just designed a chair specially made for a Tennessee preschooler with special needs so that he can sit on the same level with his classmates. So each year, the engineering students from this university, they are assigned a student with special needs to design something that could perhaps make life a little easier for them. So this is what they did for Ben. He now has a seat that is adjustable. Before, what would happen is that Ben would be placed in what, pretty much amounted to a stroller, right? And the stroller, you could move it around or whatever, but he was always sitting at about this high while his classmates were sitting at the tables, during class. I think it's pretty fascinating because, they found a problem and they found a solution.
One of the things that Dr. Canfield told us was not to give someone something they ask for, but give them something they need. So there's another layer of information we have to get through to understand what he actually needs.
I think it's amazing that we can give somebody something that's useful and helpful for them, because a lot of times engineers create something and they don't know how it impacts the environment or the people that were created for them. So this will allow us to really know what we do is something for good.
The students in this engineering program, apparently they spoke with Ben's family and some of his caregivers and the teachers to figure out the best way of going about doing this. Now, I guess through the program, they help out about a dozen children, every year. But just like you said, this is real world experience. What they did is they said, we can find a solution, a real world solution that can help someone right now and, possibly make someone's life a little easier. You know what to do, folks, okay? Like, comment, share, tell all your friends, tell mom and them, okay? You're gonna be going home for the holidays, by the way, happy holidays. Just let them know we can watch and we take feedback. So if you got something to say, just put it in the comments. We're happy to hear from you. Anything else? Am I missing something? I'm not missing anything. Is that it? I think that's it. That's it.